While I hope to inspire and invite my audience to consider experiencing the world differently, I acknowledge and honor that we come from different backgrounds, some with more privilege, and some do not have access to even the basic needs and rights. I speak as someone holding a vision of a more conscious world where we value all life for you, for us, for our children, and generations to come.
Hello, beautiful shining souls. My name is Jostine, Intuitive Life Guide from the Philippines. Welcome back to my channel. So, for today's life tip, I invite you to practice the pause. I love this life tip. To help with our presentation today on when we need to practice the pause, I have an acronym for pause. We have P, we practice pause for peace. 2, we practice pause to allow. 3, we practice pause to understand. 4, we practice pause for sustainability. And 5, we examine ourselves. Let's break this down. Alright, so first we practice the pause for peace. What does it mean? This is simply giving ourselves permission to take time out of our days to prioritize being in silence, in stillness, in connecting with God, connecting with ourselves, connecting with the present moment. Alright? It doesn't have to be long. Right? Sometimes we just need to take a minute or two to just sit in silence and being still. And take mindful breaths. And observe, witness. Be. Right? I mean, just doing that several times throughout your days, it will help you go back to your center. It will help you be calm, right? To be grounded in the present moment. I actually do this when, like, for example, you're going to the bathroom. Right? Sorry. Or going to the bathroom, right? Instead of just, trying to rush through things, like, try to be in the moment, right? And just savor that time for a long time, right? You're away from the world, right? No one is going to disturb you, I hope. Right? Especially if you're working in an office, right? Where everything is like there's a lot of people, work demands from work, right? You're out and about, like having this time to pause is really essential for us to access our inner peace, right? We do not let me tell you, you like just practice this, be intentional with this. It will be difficult in the beginning, but as you continue your practice, you know how in the eye of the storm there's the calmness, the peace, like you're that eye of the storm. Right? There's peace even though everything around you is chaotic. That is the gift of the pause. right? And sometimes just saying like a second of, oh, thank you, Lord. And don't just say the word, like take a moment to breathe in that gratitude, right? Feeling your heart beating. And allowing yourself to smile, right? Coming from within. That's, oh, I invite you to do that and see what will happen. Right? So that is number one, practice pause for peace. Next, we practice pause to allow. What does it mean? So, again, we cannot control what is happening outside of us, right? And the more that we reject and deny, and the more that we push for what we want, the more that we force something, the more that there will be unrest in our hearts. So, my invitation is to practice the pause, to allow what is. Okay, allow what is happening. And we suspend judgment of whether it is good or bad, right? We do not label them as good or bad. Like, it is what it is. This is the situation that we have now. This is what is happening, right? And then we allow for possibilities to arise. Because when we allow ourselves to be present in the current situation and we accept what is happening, then we can choose how to respond, right? We can choose from a more mindful and conscious space without being influenced by our heightened emotions, whatever that is, right? Because that is when we can access our power to choose. Of course, having said that, it is natural to be reactive. We are wired that way so that, to protect us, right? Especially in the old days where it's life or death situation. We have to think fast, we have to react to survive, right? That's our survival instincts. But the thing is, now we are in a relatively more peaceful environment, right? I mean, it's not that there's always, predators out to get you. It's different kind of predators, but that's for another story. But, we need to retrain our brains so that we're not just reacting, right? We need to center and ground ourselves, right? And we need to see the situation for what it is, right? And maybe in the beginning, it will take some time to really be conscious in practicing the pause, allowing what is, suspending judgment, and opening to possibilities. But the more that we do this, it will be intuitive to us, right? And we can, like, it will be just as natural as breathing, right? It's the same, like, no matter what is happening outside of you, right? You can easily access your inner wisdom, right? Because, again, we cannot control what is happening. We can influence, right? But we can control how we respond, and that is our power. So that is pause to allow. Next, we pause to understand. So this is more about reacting to people, right? To how other people are. We live in a very diverse world, right? And we have different experiences. And our experiences shape how we see the world, how we experience the world. If we do not take the time to really reflect on how we are being influenced by our programming, by our conditioning, by our environment, then we will just be reacting, following that programming, that conditioning. There is no really like conscious awareness of, okay, how can we respond in a more loving, kind way, right? So this is what it is, right? We pause to understand, trying to understand other people, where other people are coming from, right? So we breathe before we react, right? Again, it's very natural for us to react, right? But try to practice like breathing, take a deep breath. If you feel like you want to speak up right away, or you want to do something, like wait, pause, and take a deep breath. Okay, and then try to release that any excess heightened energy, right? And then we acknowledge what is happening here. Like, what are my biases? How are my belief systems or the lenses that I'm wearing influencing how I am experiencing this person, right? Then we expand our viewpoint, right? We acknowledge that, okay, I am coming from this space, but what if I look at it from a different perspective? What if I put myself in their shoes, right? What if I try to understand, like, okay, this person is reacting this way, or this person is acting this way. What could be the possible reasons behind that? Where could this person be coming from? Can you imagine what will happen if everyone in the world is coming from that space of trying to understand other people, right? Instead of thinking that my way is the only way, my truth is the only truth. It's the cause of hate in this world, right? That's why there's separations, unending, well, seemingly endless cycle of hate perpetuating, right? Because it's us versus them, without trying to meet with the other and trying to understand where they are coming from. It's not really about agreeing about one thing, but it's finding a common ground, and really responding from a space of love and understanding and kindness. Anyway, that's more complex, convoluted topic, which I will not touch on right now, but that is the invitation. We pause to understand, right? And then next, we pause for sustainability. So this is more about self-care, right? We take time to disconnect from the world, right? We are so connected with our phones. It's vital for us to really disconnect, to give our minds, our spirit, ourselves some time to be away from people. Especially if you're an introvert like me, like our alone time is very important, right? That's how we energize ourselves. And so even if you're alone and resting, but if you are holding your phone and you're scrolling through social media, that's really not disconnecting, because you're still somehow getting the energy of whoever is on the platform. It affects you, right? So try to take time to disconnect. And if you have access to being in nature, oh, that is the best, right? Just disconnecting and being in nature, connecting with Mother Earth. That is, oh, I love that. That is the best, right? And to be able to do this, you really need to schedule it. You really need to schedule it. You need to make it a priority. Because otherwise, if you're just going to wait until you have free time, good luck. Right? Because there will always be something that will be demanding your attention. So you have to prioritize your self-care, your need, right? You need to prioritize taking breaks, right? Time to disconnect. Okay? And give yourself permission to do nothing. Like, absolutely nothing. Right? Like, think nothing, do nothing, just lie in bed, right? The practice is showing up in doing nothing. Like, you show up to do nothing, but just to be, So pause for sustainability. And lastly, we pause to examine. So this is very important. I've mentioned this earlier about taking time to reflect on our experiences, right? So in addition to that, we reflect on our thoughts, on our words, our actions. Some of the possible questions that you can ask is this still true? Remember that we do hold certain belief systems. You need to ask yourself, is this belief still true for me? Because sometimes we're just going with the flow, right? Going through the motions, or maybe you're following an expert, right? A mentor, and maybe at that time, right, in the past, it is true for you. But where you are now, it could be that it doesn't feel aligned anymore, and that is okay. We need to check in with that as well, because our soul is continuously evolving, we are continuously growing, transforming. We are being directed or guided to different situations where we can fully realize our potential, where we can be all we can become. And most of the time, right, if not always, what brought you to where you are now won't bring you to where you need to go next. We need to expand, we need to grow, because there are things that we have outgrown. And so, check in with yourself. Is this still true? Is this still serving my highest good? And are you consciously choosing or responding, right? Do you make the choices that you make because it is really what is true for you? Or is it because that is what other people are saying? Are you being influenced by other people? Are you being influenced by what is happening in the world? In asking these questions, sometimes, right? Sometimes we already know, okay, this is the more expansive choice. But at this time, am I really ready to go into that space? Or am I consciously choosing to path knowing the consequences, knowing what the cost is? And if you can respond to that, right? And if you're taking responsibility for your choices, then that is good. It's basically being empowered and really taking ownership of your life, right? Whatever choice you make, you are taking ownership of it. No judgment here, right? No judgment, because I have also made those choices for myself. But I know what I am saying no to, right? And yes, there might be times when I regretted it, or when I think like, oh, maybe I should have, nah. That is my immediate response, because I know that at that time, I have my reasons for choosing the choices that I made. And so even if there is a part of me that kind of regrets or thinks about what if I have made a different choice, deep down I am at peace knowing that I made a conscious choice for myself at that time. And yes, my situation now may not be ideal, but this is the choice that I made, right? I stayed true to my path. And I am trusting that no matter how much I may have messed up, have I really messed up? If I have learned something, if I have gained some kind of wisdom from that mistake, right? So these are the things that we need to examine for ourselves, right? That's how we continuously grow and evolve. All right? So again, that is pause to examine. So there we go. We practice the pause for peace, to allow, to understand, for sustainability, and to examine. So I hope that this has been helpful. Thank you so much for being with me if you're still here. And I'll see you again on the next episode. Peace, love, and light.
The world is waiting for your magic.